a very large network of people now throughout the world that I have been in contact with, have worked with, have signed contracts with. I think that will provide the necessary next steps for what we need to do here in the short term and the long term. Overall, I just want to talk quickly about next steps. I'm sure someone will ask, but I think it's very important so you guys know where we're at today. First and foremost, I just got here. So I think it's very important to understand we're going to have an assessment period. That will be very quick, but done to the best of my ability. It will be, clearly looking at the roster, talking to all the staff, and I've already begun that over the last couple of days, and making sure I have a real firm understanding about what we have here internally. And then we will start to set a shared vision and direction going forward, and that will incorporate all of the people I just spoke about. Making sure from that we're going to set new standards for high performance within the group, how we operate, communicate, and how we look at new decisions being made moving forward. We will then obviously be as transparent as possible with you, the media, our fans, our stakeholders, about the direction we're going in, so you can follow along and obviously check that along the way. We're going to build a squad to meet standards that I see as a winning kind of formula. I think it's very important to understand that in squad building, the right pieces are not always available. I think you imagine you can just go out and get what you need, and they're perfect characters and they fit everything the coach needs. That is not always the case. So please bear with me while we make sure we get the right people into the club. And then last but not least, achieve success. It's very clear that through this process, that is an important part of what the fans are looking for. I think people are knowledgeable enough to see progress, and that's what I hope we can show right away. But I'm here to win. I am a winner, and I'm very excited for the city and the rest of the fans to be part of that process as well, because there is nothing better than winning. I can tell you this right now. It is the best feeling, and I'm very excited for that to happen here in St. Louis. So thank you.
Thanks, Corey. We'll start with Tom.
Hi, Corey.
Hello.
Hi, Tom Timmerman from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. What's your wife's name?
My wife's name is Jamie.
Jamie?
Yes.
J-A-M-I-E?
J-A-I-M-E.
J-A-I-M-E.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be able not to refer just as your wife.
Thank you. And she would like that too.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
How big of a challenge is this? How much work needs to be done for this team that has missed the playoffs now 2 years in a row to get them? And how quickly can it be done?
Yeah, that will be in the assessment phase, but I will tell you that we are in the short term going to need to do a few things to become more competitive. I don't think that's going to be a surprise to anyone. There is clearly some opportunities to improve the overall group. We will do that immediately. We have a few different opportunities through the MLS mechanisms coming up that you're probably aware of in terms of reentry drafts, free agency, and super drafts. So those will be looked at as quickly as possible from a add as quickly as possible kind of way of doing things. And then from there, we need to set a lot of things in the structure long term. So you're talking about real big decisions need to be made on structure for the larger decisions from a MLS mechanism, your TAM players, your DPs. That will take a little bit longer to make informed decisions on those. And I could see those taking, I don't want to put any timelines on anything, but those will be the things that I'll be working towards into the new season for sure, as we look for a longer term sustainable and competitive environment here.
How do you feel about DPs? This is a club that has not really plunged into the DP market, but do you feel the resources are there that you can go out and get what you want and to add for the next year? A DP?
Yeah, for sure. I think, just in my experiences, we need to be very cautious about just getting a DP or getting the right DP. I'm sure people will tell you that. And in terms of what that looks like, a lot of work needs to be done behind the scenes to ensure that we do have a good strike rate on those players. So I am confident that there is a desire to win in terms of the ambition of ownership. And they are committed to resourcing that how we see fit. So I will get into those discussions further in terms of setting budgets and looking at that. But I don't see that as being something that is going to be prohibitive in terms of my plan. I think it's about providing a plan that makes sense, that is supported by all the different things. When you are looking for additional funds, I think you need to do your job to create, I'd say, some sort of confidence in that process. And then from there, I see a huge desire to be a part of that global transfer market and look for the right player for St. Louis for sure.
We'll go to Justin.
Hi, Corey. Justin Horniker, St. Louis Magazine. As you kind of look past to some of your past work in Toronto and Columbus, a lot of that is just building the foundation through the player pathway. That's something that this club has wanted to do very well. If you look back to those successes, is there anything that you would point to as wanting to bring from how you set up those organizations to here that maybe hasn't been done or maybe that you think can be done better?
Yeah, as I'm still trying to figure out what's been going on from a deeper level, I think just high level, just making sure that all the different parts of the club are speaking to each other. That is the easiest way for me to say when I'm taking a decision to trade for, acquire a player, that we've done all the work internal to project out when the pathway is set for the next player in that position, that we're not blocking that player. And then deeper than that, we need to do a good job at benchmarking across the club, highlighting what great is, what makes an MLS player in the pathway. And I'm confident in the group right now, from what I've heard, that they're doing a good job. But in my experience, there is a possibility that a non-efficient pathway is one that simply just needs to be brought together through communication and through working with each other a little bit more formally. So I don't think that's hard. The hard part is when you are missing those conversations, when you are not considering what you might have internally. And I think that is where we just need to create some alignment. But I'm very excited about that pathway and being a big part of our success in the future.
Yeah, and as you think of like your interview process and looking elsewhere, was that something that drove you to this project of just knowing that some of those pieces might have been in place?
For sure. Every project is going to be different. And so there's not, I never thought about, I've done it somewhere, I'm going to do everything the same here. I'm very mindful now after my experiences that is not a good way to start your job. And so, yes, from what I've heard, the pathway and what I've seen clearly at the higher levels is a strong pathway with good success. What I've heard, outside of that, is that the player pool is strong, this deeply knowledgeable soccer city, which with roots, far beyond, my date of birth. And so I think that means we have a real good opportunity to continue to grow that and to continue to provide the opportunity for our players to achieve their goals. So I simply, we'll get into more of that, but I'm very excited about the opportunity to bring more players from here into the first team for sure.
We'll go to Jen Sees, then Matt Baker.
Hi, Corey. Jen Cease with KMOX Radio. You said very fairly that you can't possibly, the players that you might want to have aren't just easily available. But if you did in a perfect world have a person kind of profile player that you like to look for, is there anything in particular in building a roster, qualities of soccer players that you tend to be drawn to?
Yeah, I hate to give like a highly political answer, but I don't want to sit here and start to list those out until we finalize some of the bigger pictures. So how I would maybe come back to do that at a later date would be to first ensure we set the vision of how this club wants to play. That could be very different across many different clubs, and that could mean ideal players are very different for each club. So first, that will be a major next step for me in terms of getting
Ray, the new sporting director for St. Louis City SC. Let's go back.
Needed. On my end, I think from a sporting leadership side, it's to give the coach all the necessary tools for him to be as good as he can as a coach, and to not limit the tactical or technical things that he sees in his vision by kind of pigeonholing some of the profiles. So simply players who are quite flexible, tactically, technically, capable physically, and obviously who fit the culture that we have here, not only in the club, but in the city, I think is the easiest way to define what I'm going to do next.
Fair enough. A quick follow-up, because I can mention a specific player because
We're going to toss it over to Michael Calhoun for a newscast here because we've got a couple of hiccups there. Let's see if we can grab just the last part of that, Matt.
So having someone in that position with the history, with the performances, with the character, I'm happy that that's not another piece that I need to go out and look for. And I'm very confident as we kind of develop the squad that he will be someone that's crucial to our success for sure.
Matt?
Hi, Corey. Matt Baker with Flyover Footy Podcast.
Hi.
I want to talk about your time with Montreal real quick.
Sure.
You've gone through a lot of successes with Toronto and Columbus, and they're some of the best in the league. Your time with Montreal was very short. Could you describe to us what your role was with Montreal? Because it seemed like it evolved a little bit, and you didn't make very many press conference appearances, very many appearances to the media. Can you talk a little bit about what your evolving role was with Montreal?
Yeah, sure. I think first and foremost, for the role itself, I think it's clear I came in as a consultant and that moved into a more permanent role there. The second thing that is clear to kind of explain is the Montreal setup was very much a council in terms of decision making, and I sat on that council. So that was the role, and that's what kind of my day-to-day looked like, was providing feedback, providing expertise or any sort of knowledge in any area that the council needed to. And then as a group, we make a decision. So that's what the setup was. As far as maybe a follow-up question you might have, I will not sit and speak badly about any of my experiences. And I think I am truly grateful for the opportunity that Saputo family provided me. Their history and investment in that city is obviously pretty clear. What they've done to develop the game in Canada. As a Canadian, I'm greatly thankful for that because it's grown the game. And so I see that as maybe a difficult time for me in terms of their vision for wanting to do things in a different way. But I saw it as a really great moment for me to learn. And it really helped me prepare for my opportunity here in terms of really trying to think about establishing a clear vision, refining some of those processes that maybe didn't work so great when I was there. And I can't thank them enough for that opportunity. And to the fans there who never heard from me, they should be pretty excited about what's next. Tactically, what was able to be done with the council to the roster sets them up in a really good way for this offseason. And so I'm proud of the work that we did together. And I'm very excited for the fans to see what Luca and Simone and Gabriel can do next.
Without going too deep into the council structure, just as you come to St. Louis, would you compare this structure that St. Louis has more to what you experienced in, or what you expect the structure to be, to what you experienced in Columbus and Toronto?
Yes. Yes. So that's very important in terms of where I sit. I think it's clear that there is a large organization that also is part of this process. And I think people get caught up a lot in who does what. I see my role as clearly someone who is going to recommend to, at the end of the day, we all have bosses. I don't think you will ever get away from that until you're truly, free of any decision making from a business standpoint. You're either you're going to speak to shareholders, you're going to speak to somebody to make a decision. So I just want to be very clear. I am entrusted here to make the recommendations. I am here to provide all of the sporting, recommendation decisions on all of the sporting department. But I work for a great company that is going to also be part of that process. And so that includes obviously Diego and leadership, but that is very normal and that's what I'm used to. And so I think what you guys will see in the next years, months, whatever, is that it's not always going to be about me making a decision anyhow. I'd like to introduce you at some point to the other people as part of the process. I think the way in which we see decisions made in the sporting side is often too simplistic, and I'm happy to be the face and to speak about that. But there are so many other people that are part of that need to be recognized. And I think for the fans, I'm very excited at some point to dive deeper in how those processes work. So hopefully that answers your question, but this is very much the same kind of setup that we had in Columbus. And certainly in terms of the sports and entertainment behemoth with Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, it's very similar to a certain extent with the board, with leadership, with all of the things that we have here. And I'm very excited to work that way. It is a great way, despite maybe what people think on the outside.
It was reported recently that you provided a 120-page report or presentation as part of your interview for this position. Is there any insight you could give us into what that contained? And in the sense of, you said you have a lot of a lot of discussions to have. It seems like you've done your homework on this organization. And is there anything you could offer us insight into maybe some of your ideas that contained for the future?
No, I think that, and I think it's very important to clarify the process. I think the purpose of something like that was to go through every part of the sporting structure, provide either examples, provide a framework around how it would work, provide an understanding of the level of detail that's required under my kind of guidance as a sporting leader, and to see if that matched what ownership was looking for. Clearly, it was aligned with what they're looking for when it comes to details, when it comes to even some of the things they weren't thinking about. But it's not to say that it was some crazy document or anything, but if you just list out all the processes within a sporting org, I tried to address all of those to be as thorough as possible. It was not something deeper than, that next steps, how we work. But after that will be something a little bit more detailed in terms of the sporting vision, and the real meat of what I'm going to try to do will be provided the next time. It will not be 120 pages. So yeah.
We'll go to Brendan Weezy, then Bill McDermott.
Corey, Brendan Weezy, KTRS Radio. How are you?
I am great. Yeah.
You may still be in the preliminary stages of this, but what in the infrastructure with the club do you see that needs changing? And are there things that you see that you'd like to see maybe remain the same, again, from just the early stages of what you've seen so far?
Yeah. High level, I think, just based on some high level assessments, we need to improve probably maybe some of the expertise in the sporting leadership. Again, I will harp on it. I am one person. I am not going to change everything by myself. I'm not going to be able to make this a powerhouse by myself. And so I think we could really use some additions in that space. The second thing is to kind of redefine or relook at how we're scouting players. There's probably a gap there. Currently, we do have people on staff. I think my job will be to support them and to try to create a scouting process that can look at, domestic, international, and then also incorporate the internal side that I was speaking about, and find a way that we can have it talk to each other. So those would be the two easy ones. Bigger than that, I think we need to look at how we use data in this day and age. I am someone who relies on it to a certain extent to help communicate across the traditional and then the non-traditional way of scouting or squad build or trends or anything like that. So I think, in terms of using data, I would use the word data informed, making sure we are using it, making sure it's at the right place of the process, and then using it to make our traditional scouting and our other processes better. And so having the traditional side, I guess, the art and the science of scouting speak to the data, and have the data speak to the traditional scouting is how I see a working kind of process going. And I've seen that work really well in the past. So those would be the key areas. After that, it's only day 3.5 since I've been here. I do believe we have some really good people in house. It's just about, elevating, their ideas, creating it, a process that they're part of, and trying to align that in terms of how we communicate with each other. But those are maybe not so exciting for you guys, but that's something that I think is very important in a winning culture.
Bill.
Hi, Corey. Bill McDermott. How do I say this? Miscellaneous outlets. Welcome to St. Louis.
Thank you. Okay.
When you look, and you touched upon the job description of a head coach, and when you get into that overall process, what would you consider more important? Analytics, analyzing teams in the future, looking at tape, tactics, things of that nature, or management of personalities? What would you consider more important for a coach?
Yeah, it's a very good question. The way that I look at it, and the way that, as a group, we've had some really good success in the past is first it's very, very important to get this clear. They have to be a good person. And I think the character of that person is going to be paramount to moving past any first stage of what we're doing. I will be very firm on that, because for you guys, maybe you know or don't know, it is going to be a person I'm going to be working with most hours of the day, and that our club is going to be working with many hours of the day. And so if you do not have someone who is going to have high character and be a good person, I think we stop the process there. From that, we will then start to look at our club and the vision I spoke about of what we're trying to do and where they fit into that. And I think that is going to be the next stage of defining the profile. And so what I mean by that, some of the things you spoke about. So how do they use, film? How do they communicate with the players? How do they break down the match reports? How comfortable are they using some form of data? And do they feel like they are able to sit with a group and work collaboratively? Or are they a person who needs to be by themselves and we just have to cater to them? I think I'm looking for the first version of what I'm explaining. And then we get into the X's and O's and the coaching, but we do not go past those first two stages if it's not right. And I think that will be very important in this process to make clear that we are going to get those first two right before we go on the last one. And then you get into all the other fun stuff that you guys will for sure ask about after every game. They will be very capable at that, but they will not be afforded the opportunity unless they hit the first two.
That's Corey Ray, the new sporting director for St. Louis City SC, answering that final question from our Bill McDermott there. And somebody with a lot of MLS experience, 20 years of experience. In fact, for baseball fans listening, this is a similar path taken by Chaim Bloom, who has been in Major League Baseball for 20 plus years as an intern. He started in Toronto. He worked his way through every position you could think of in front offices, to the point where he recruited a lot of the players that were successful for the championship Columbus Crew. Most recently was brought into the Montreal organization, then let go, similar to what Chaim Bloom did a brief stint in Boston, and now has had his opportunity, a data-driven front office member here in Corey Ray. He just talked about it. A lot of the things that Chaim believes in as well, and it sounds like a lot of collaboration is what they're looking for here, and a lot of success. Obviously, this was a long process. It has been a while since Lutz Pfannenstiel was let go, and they did a long search for their next sporting director, and they have landed on Corey Ray. We've just been carrying the press conference. They actually started a couple minutes before noon, about 11:58, so we carried it all the way through here on the Gashouse Gang. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and dive back into baseball, as we'll be joined by Danny Wexelman of MLB Network. Jason Sklar is also scheduled to join us. The comedian, the Sklar brothers are coming to St. Louis pretty soon. With Chris Ranji, I'm Tom Ackerman. Back after this.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Missouri, get ready. FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook, is coming soon. And starting December 1st, new customers in Missouri can get up to $300 in bonus bets when you make your first $5 bet. So from touchdowns to home runs to three-pointers, with FanDuel, any play can be the play of the game. And with live betting, you can even get in on the action after the game has already started, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. FanDuel is the best way to game day, and it's coming soon to Missouri. Just visit FanDuel.com/promo code to learn more. This way you'll be all set to bet when FanDuel goes live in Missouri on December 1st. That's FanDuel.com/promo code. Play your game with FanDuel, the #1 rated sportsbook app. Must be 21 or older and present in Missouri. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Offer starts 12/1/2025. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG.
Now, KMOX weather from the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Desk.
It is wonderful out there. It is sunny, and we are already at the high today of 70.
Weather sponsored by Renner Garage Door, forward and back, RENNER.
Cardinal Cowboy here. Renner Garage Door has brought cheers to their fans for decades with the best styles, cutting-edge tech, and good old family values. Get your free repair or replacement quote today. Forward and back. Giddy up!
RENNER, RENNER.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-505-9257. 800-505-9257. 800-505-9257.
Hey St. Louis, this is Ben Barnett, board certified master arborist with Timberline Professional Tree Care. In my nearly 30 years in the industry, I've seen firsthand what damage falling trees can do to your property. The sad thing is that most trees that fail have defects that can be identified by a well-trained certified arborist. At Timberline, we have 7 ISA certified arborists, 3 of which have gone through extensive training and testing to become tree risk assessment qualified. Our track certified arborists can perform a thorough assessment of your tree and provide mitigation options for your peace of mind. If there's nothing wrong with your tree, we will let you know that it poses a low risk of failure. If it needs to be removed, we'll tell you in a detailed written report. It's all about honesty and integrity here at Timberline Professional Tree Care. So call us today to get a tree risk assessment scheduled. 636-479-7475 or contact us through our website at stltreecare.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Hello, I'm John Rooney. Congratulations to KMOX on 100 years strong, truly making KMOX the voice of St. Louis.
Now back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling on 104.1 FM KMOX.
Back on the show after carrying that live press conference, MLS and the new sporting director for St. Louis City SC, Corey Ray. Welcome to St. Louis, and we welcome in from ESPN, Sirius XM, MLB Network Radio. Love listening to those shows, as well as we should absolutely mention Mizzou made, and most importantly, St. Louis native, Danny Wexelman, joining us on KMOX. How are you?
Oh, man, I am so good. I am recovering from the last couple weeks. I feel like people are already talking about spring training, and I'm like, hold on a second. I I need to get a couple more hours of sleep. But no, I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. Yeah. What did we just witness? I mean, that was really unbelievable. And you were there. I mean, it happened quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, I am so lucky. I got a chance to work the postseason for SiriusXM, and I started with the ALCS. But even before that, I was going to the ALDS games. I'm based in New York, so I got to see the Blue Jays early against the Yankees in that series, and then we were off and running. I was looking at my expense reports today, trying to get them done, which I'm sure everyone can relate to in life. I didn't do a good job of managing that, but it was 8 flights and 6 hotels in 3 weeks. And like, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so grateful. But I feel like I just saw a number of 51 million people watched Game 7 between the United States, Canada, and Japan. It's the most watched Major League Baseball game in 34 years. And I can't believe what I saw. I feel like baseball's in such a great spot right now. And I was just grateful to be a part of it.
It was one of the more eventful World Series that we have ever seen. And a lot of people think that it was the best one we have ever seen. I wonder if we are being a bit of a prisoner of the moment on that. But what do you think?
Gosh, well, I can't speak to the entire history of baseball because I'm not 100 years old, but I can speak to my colleagues. I have colleagues who are such historians of the game, and I've worked with people who document it so well, who feel that way, who weren't there and who weren't watching the ins and outs. Like, when you're kind of embedded in the postseason, going back and forth, and you're seeing people every day and you're watching these moments unfold, you're seeing it differently than people who are watching it from home. You get a different type of perspective. And I don't think people are being dramatic. I think that what we saw, the fact that we got to a Game 7, number one, right, which is so rare. The fact that the Blue Jays had 2 Game 7s, which is also extremely rare in a postseason to do that in the same year. And the Dodgers, who have captivated, multiple countries and multiple parts of this globe because of their Japanese trio of players that they have, because the game went to extras, and Miguel Rojas, who is the most unlikely hero, right? In the bottom of the 9th inning, there's 1 out. The Blue Jays are 2 outs away, right? How many times does the World Series come down to a Game 7, 1 out in the bottom of the 9th? Like, almost never do we get drama like that. And no matter who you're a fan of, your heart is racing because the Jays are so close. They haven't done it in 32 years, right? Their franchise started in 1977. This would be their 3rd title. And the Dodgers are trying to do something that hasn't been done in a quarter of a century. And Jeff Hoffman's on the mound, and you have the bottom of the order, and Miguel Rojas, who, by the way, had only started his 2nd game in the World Series, that Game 7. It was his 3rd game played, only his 2nd start. And you would not expect him to tie the game with a home run. You would not expect a Game 6 winner for the Dodgers and Yoshinobu Yamamoto to come out of the pen and perform the way that he did. What we saw, we might never see that again. And for him to close it out, and Will Smith had the go-ahead, like that, I think that's why people feel that way, is because the elements involved in the game for an unlikely hero in Rojas to tie the game, for Yamamoto to come back out. By the way, like, he had thrown 2 complete games, right? He had pitched in Game 6, and then he came back out, and he was interested in throwing in that 18-inning marathon. Like, we just don't see that. And so I don't think that it is it is dramatic to say it could be the best Game 7 ever.
No, it was an amazing flip of a script when you thought that Toronto was going to handle this at home, that the Dodgers walked away with the championship. And you're right. I mean, I saw some people joke on Twitter. Somebody said Yamamoto is scheduled for Game 8 after the series was over. And somebody said, no, technically they did play 8 games. I mean, they played 2 in one day.
Yeah.
It really was amazing. Was it good for the game? You know what I mean? There were a lot of people that looked at it and said, well, there they go again. The team that writes checks wins the championship. But we just said that it probably drew in a lot of casual sports fans who witnessed baseball at its craziest and most dramatic. It's a little bit of both, isn't it, Danny?
Yeah, let me speak to a couple things, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about, because the collective bargaining agreement is up after this season. And so there is a pretty big concern there will be a lockout, which means no baseball until the 2 sides, the players' side and then, of course, the owner's side, come to an agreement. And so Dave Roberts made a comment after they won the NLCS, they swept, that they were ruining baseball. Let's win 4 more and really ruin it. And I think what we saw in the game, like take out that it's the Dodgers, like we saw incredible baseball. We saw pitching performances we may never see again. To see 2 complete games from one starting pitcher in the postseason from Yamamoto is so extremely rare. The average guy goes 4 1/3. So like we saw things like that. We saw incredible home runs. We saw Shohei Ohtani hit 3 home runs in a game and strike out 10 and go 6 innings, right? So we saw things like that. We saw the Blue Jays, who captivated not just a state, right? They're a country. They're an entire country that's watching one team. And I think that they injected a reminder of what the sport can be, and a reminder, like you're watching this second generation of fans potentially see a World Series, right? In 93, when they won, let's say there were kids who were 20 something years old. You fast forward 30 years later and you have their kids watching this World Series, right? It's generations at that point, and you could see it in their faces. You could see it around the ballpark. Like I can't tell you how special it was just to be in Toronto and witness that. And so that was incredible for the game. And then you saw the Blue Jays, who have guys like Ernie Clement, who was nominated for 2 Gold Gloves, who is the most lovable guy you could imagine. And guys like Vlad Guerrero Jr. and George Springer, who's such a great story. Like we had such great stories, and the league did such a great job, I feel like, of marketing what we saw and making sure that you knew it wasn't just Ohtani and Guerrero Jr., right? You knew the other guys' names who were on those teams, which I think is also really important. And I will say this about the Dodgers, like, yeah, do they spend a lot of money? Yeah, they're top 5 in luxury tax payroll. So are the Blue Jays. People forget the Blue Jays spent top 5 money last season. It's the exact same as what the Dodgers did. It was just spent in different ways. And the Braves could have re-signed Freddie Freeman, and the Red Sox could have re-signed Mookie Betts, and Shohei Ohtani was thinking about going to Seattle. Like they're just because the Dodgers got them doesn't mean that that's how it was always going to go. It just worked out that way. And so I think that that's something people need to remember when we're talking about the Dodgers ruining the sport. Well, we should probably talk about the Mets and the Blue Jays, and maybe add the Phillies in there, right? Teams that are top 5 in luxury tax payroll. It's not just the Dodgers that are doing it, but I think that what we saw throughout the postseason, we saw the Tigers, we saw the Guardians, we saw the Reds sneak in. They got that wild card series right early with the Dodgers. We saw smaller market teams get the job done because they're really talented. There's less disparity because the draft is shorter. So if a first round guy, I think a first round guy is just as good as a 10th round guy. And I think that you're going to start to see that throughout the league and permeate throughout different teams. But if we have a lockout, that's going to hurt the game in a big way. And I'm concerned whether the Dodgers want or not, that it's going to happen, because the owners want a floor and a ceiling, and the players are never going to agree to that. So it's tough. Like we have the World Baseball Classic coming up in a few months, right? We have the Olympics in 2028. Baseball's back. Like we just put up 51 million people watching Game 7. I feel like it's the worst time to slow down. And I can't say enough good things really about where I feel like the game is at. And I just hope that the two sides can figure it out before next year.
Danny Wexelman from Wildwood, definitely not from Eureka. We appreciate you being on the show today.
Well, wait a second now. Hold on. You have to say it like that. I love Eureka. I have a ton of love in my heart, but I didn't grow up in Eureka, so I just want to make sure my Wildwood family knew that that's where I'm from. And I appreciate it. I know my family's listening, and I'll be back for the holidays. So I always appreciate you guys having me and letting me come on to talk some ball.
One of the best baseball broadcasters out there. Seriously, Danny Wexelman does a terrific job. And when we have you back on, and there will be a next time, we will break down the Cardinals with you. We look forward to that.
Yeah, let's do it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Danny Wexelman does a great job. ESPN, MLB Network Radio, really a good listen. And we appreciate her joining us. Coming up next, big Cardinals fan, big Jason Sklar. The Sklar brothers are coming to St. Louis next week for some stand-up. And let's talk some Cardinals. Back after this.
Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Featured products are compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Want a boost in and out of the bedroom? Hims has you covered. Introducing a new 2-in-1 approach to level up your game. Tadalafil for better bedroom performance and zinc for testosterone support. Put it all together and you've got what you need to turn things all the way up. Getting started is simple. Just go to hims.com/joy to start your free online visit. Through Hims, you can access ED treatments, including pills, chews, and more, 100% online. No office visits, no pharmacy lines. Just fill out a simple intake form and a licensed medical provider will determine if treatment's right for you. If prescribed, it ships free and discreetly to your door. Find affordable treatment options at up to 95% less than brand names at hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy, HIMS.com/JOY.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install a Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details. Now, KMOX weather from the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Desk.
Right now, it is 70 degrees and sunny in St. Louis. We are already at the high for today.
This report is sponsored by Metro Transit.
Looks like autumn has arrived, and all fall long, a Metro Transit Day Pass is still just $5, which makes you just one click away from your one-day mental health fall getaway. Plan your trip at metrostlouis.org.
This is Congressman Bob Onder. In September, House Republicans passed a bill to keep the government open by extending funding at current levels. Now Washington liberals are holding the American people hostage. They shut down your government and are demanding Medicaid for illegal aliens and funding for woke projects, which would cost taxpayers $1.5 trillion. Now federal workers are missing paychecks. That's unacceptable. Throughout the shutdown, our offices will remain open to help you, our constituents. Go to onder.house.gov to find the office closest to you.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives. If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen carefully. The IRS is cracking down, taking paychecks, freezing bank accounts, revoking passports. That's a fact. But here's what most people don't know. There are official tax relief programs designed to help struggling taxpayers. Programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Optima's award-winning team will fight to protect your paycheck, your passport, and your property. Their tax attorneys and licensed tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
It's the Medicare Advantage annual enrollment period, and Humana knows not everyone has the same needs when picking a Medicare Advantage plan.
Now that I'm retired, I want to enjoy the life I've worked hard to build. So I want a plan that covers me when I'm traveling the country.
Humana has a plan for that.
As a veteran, I want a plan that fills in the gaps my VA coverage doesn't provide, like dental care.
Humana has a plan for that.
I feel good about my health. I just want care and coverage with predictable costs. No surprises.
Humana has a plan for that. With a Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you get coverage and benefits that focus on what matters most to you. Learn more at gethumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Now, back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling on 104.1 FM KMOX.
Welcome back to the Gashouse Gang. Boy, this next guest is a perfect fit for this show. Absolutely perfect. You've heard him on KMOX, and the Sklar brothers are coming to St. Louis November 14th through the 16th. It is an absolute pleasure to have Jason Sklar back on KMOX, the home of the Cardinals. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much. I love KMOX. Grew up on it. They used to have, like, in the middle of the night, I forget, it might have been Jim White who was doing it, the trading station. Do you guys remember that?
No, they did
I'm
have
thinking
the
of
trading
Art
station.
Bell. Wasn't it Art Bell, the middle of the night guy?
I think you're right. Jim did
It was-
his own show, but the trading station was a thing for sure.
And it was like, someone's like, I have a dinette set that I'd like to sell. And then someone later was like, I got 2 lawn chairs and I want to talk to that lady with the dinette set. I'm like, is this a dating show? What are we doing?
It's great.
Get these people together. Let them, figure it out. Let them give her your chairs. I love it. I love KMOX, love St. Louis. We're so excited to come back for this amazing comedy festival. Come on out, St. Louis. Support it, and more good things like it will keep coming.
Did you enjoy the World Series? You're a big baseball fan. What was it like among Dodgers fans?
Well, I had placed a lot of money on this series with Ohtani's translator, so I did very well. So
Nice.
just so you know, I did great. I saw those. I'm heartbroken for Toronto. Obviously, if they won, there would have been big tariffs that they would have had to deal with the trophy. But I'm a huge fan of the fact that it went 7 games, the fact that it went extra innings in the 7th game. As just a pure baseball fan, like when the Cardinals were out of the World Series, out of the race, which this year was in April, when they were out of it and I knew that they weren't going to probably get there, my thought was like, okay, now I can just sit back and hope that it's exciting. And I thought this was pretty exciting as far as World Series go. Am I wrong?
No, it was great. I mean, it was one of the best. It had everything. Yeah.
It had everything. I mean, look, I love that, like, no-name guy. Randy and I did a comedy special years ago trying to get Jose Oquendo into the Hall of Fame. And we did manage to get a homemade plaque that we made for him, for the utility player, put on the utility closet in the Hall of Fame. So I do count that as a victory. But we celebrate the guys who people don't celebrate, as much, who we feel like are huge contributors. And I think Rojas is a perfect example of that. That guy coming in with the most a super clutch hit in that series was fantastic. Loved it.
You and your brother doing that podcast up until what? You ended it early this year, right? The Cheap Seats podcast, the sports podcast. Would you feel like you miss it when something like that happens? You got a World Series like that, you want to talk about it.
Totally. And, we still do little hits of sports stuff on the NPR station out here in Southern California. And yes, I do miss it. We fill in for Jim Rome on his radio show and guest host his show like 7 or 8 times a year. But yeah, the weekly outlet to talk about sports, we loved it. We had done it for like 15 years. And, over time, podcast landscape changed and we decided to focus, more directly on our Dumb People Town podcast, which we're doing live on Sunday night in St. Louis on the 16th at the Pageant Theater. But because that's sort of the two, that was the one that was bigger. And right now, Randy and I are writing on this new Kevin Hart, Kenan Thompson sports show for Amazon called Good Sports, which is coming out soon. And that is where I get to pour all of my weekly sports love into writing for this show and hopefully doing a little something on it.
That is going to be great. And by the way, the Flyover Comedy Festival, flyovercomedyfest.com, is where the Sklar brothers are going to be right here in St. Louis. What is that like writing for those two and others?
It's super fun. It's funny because so much of, we did our show Cheap Seats on ESPN Classic, and that was our show. And then we did our sort of reboot of that for the UFC called The Nosebleeds. And in many cases, when we're writing for ourselves, it's a different type of writing because we know the type of humor that we do. But now to write for someone else, I will say, like, if I write a joke or Randy and I come up with like a sketch or a bit, and it comes off and it gets a laugh on the show, the feeling of that is I can only describe it as like when I see my daughter who plays like junior golf, when she hits a good shot and it's like almost feels better. She got a hole-in-one this year in a tournament. And I'm like, I think I was more excited for her to do it than if I had done it myself.
I love it. And by the way, speaking of not very well-known Cardinals players, like Jose Oquendo for you guys, that would be too big of a name. I mean, Cesar Cedeno, that'd be maybe a little more in your wheelhouse. I mean, that's true. The two of you celebrate.
Mike Tyson.
There you go.
Mike Tyson, not the boxer, but the infielder. Ramsey. Like, I mean, there were so many great players. The Glenn Brummer is another name. Like, I can pull out any 80s Cardinals, and
Jeff Lottie.
Mike Laga, the only player to hit a ball out of the old Busch Stadium. Like, we can go toe to toe when it comes to like obscure Cardinals players. Love them.
You're talking about writing a moment ago, writing for a different show and not for you or your brother. How hard is it to write in somebody else's voice?
I mean, I think it takes some doing. Like, it takes some recalibrating, because, you know, the first thing you think of when something weird happens is you're like, okay, I'm going to make the joke that I would make. That your instincts go to whatever your voice is. And then with this, there's like an extra layer. You're like, well, would they say that? Is that a joke that they would make? And so sometimes you write a joke that you're really happy with, but you're like, that doesn't work because that's not something that would come out of their mouth, or that doesn't feel like something they would do. Or this is way too edgy and mean about these celebrities, and these guys have relationships with these celebrities. There's no way they're saying that. So even if the joke works, you're like, I'm not going to make that joke. They're never going to make that joke. So that one was for me. Put that away in the drawer. And then this is the one I'm going to write for the show. So sometimes it's like that extra layer of writing, but it's good. I mean, that's, as a writer, you always say, like, you know, anytime someone says, oh, you can't do that, then as a writer, if your answer is, well, then I quit, then you're not a writer. If someone says you can't do that, then you're like, okay, I'm going to beat that joke with something else.
Jason Sklar is with us. Jason from St. Louis. We all grew up in the same era, so I don't think we've ever been through anything like this. I mean, maybe the 90s for a little while, but I mean, how do you view this right now as a Cardinals fan?
So, I mean, what's hard about it, and what's hard about the Dodgers winning, is unfortunately, like, a roadmap to success is like, you really have to put a lot of money into a team, and you really have to like make strong, bold moves. And so when you go through periods where you feel like it's not happening as much, then it gets super frustrating. And yeah, I agree. It's been a long stretch since the Cardinals, you know, and we had 2000, the 2000, was it 11, 12? Well, like I'm blanking on David Freese. 11. Like that World Series for us, like, I think that buys you as an organization about a decade of goodwill. And we're leaving that time frame a little bit. And I think Cardinals fans, like, I went to a game this year and there were maybe 20,000 fans in the stands. And I'm like, I can't ever remember in the fifth inning. I can't even remember a game. It was in August, so it wasn't like an end of the season. And I'm like, where is everybody? And is this a message that's being sent back to the team? We need to do better. And I think we knew this year was going to be like a rebuilding year anyway, but like, you can't string too many of those together without like heading in the right direction and possibly winning. So you either have to go one of two directions. We're going to spend a ton of money and we're going to make this team like a powerhouse, and we're just going to start collecting superstars, or you have to go back to sort of what the Cardinals did so well for so long, which is like, we're going to build up through the draft and getting young guys, and then we're going to get them into the league and develop them on the field. And I think the other thing that for as a Cardinals fan, I say we're starting to realize a little bit. It's like, I tell my wife this, because now I'm working this full-time writing job. I'm like, now you're going to realize how much I do around the house because I'm going to be gone all day. You guys think that I don't do anything. You're going to get mad at me because I'm not picking everyone up at 3:30. Yeah, now you're going to miss me. Well, I feel like Yadier Molina can say that to the team, because it's like, oh yeah, the reason why all those pitchers were great, the reason why Kyle Loesch came to the Cardinals and went 15-9 and then went to another team and was 9-15, Yadier Molina, people. That guy should take so much credit for that insane run that the Cardinals went on. He called incredible games, and that's a huge part of the team. So if the Cardinals can get a couple pieces like that, go get the next Yadier Molina and watch the team get better in a hot second.
It's Jason Sklar, the Sklar brothers, in the Flyover Comedy Festival, flyovercomedyfest.com to get tickets to see them November 13th through the 16th. Support the festival and support the Sklar brothers. We love you, man. Thanks so much for being with us.
Love you too. Keep doing your great show on KMOX.
You're the best. The Sklar brothers November 13th through the 16th, the Flyover Comedy Festival with Chris Ranji, Tom Ackerman.
Back tomorrow with Bernie Miklasz at 12.
with you. Thanks for joining us.
Glover here for my friends at Cantor Injury Law. Cantor is local, and we're here doing the work